Most families buy eggs the same way they buy milk or bread. They grab the carton with the friendly farm picture, the clean white background, the happy hens, or the word organic printed in a nice font. The price feels fair. The carton feels familiar. The decision feels simple. That is exactly why eggs are so easy to get wrong. Welcome to Golden Menu. Today we are looking at 10 egg brands families should avoid as everyday shopping choices, and 3 cartons that actually hold up when you care about label honesty, feed quality, and what really ends up in the kitchen. This is not a panic video. Eggs are still one of the easiest proteins a family can cook. They are simple, useful, filling, and easy to work into breakfast, lunch, or dinner. For older adults, that matters even more, because eggs can give you a practical dose of protein without a lot of fuss. But the carton can lie in very quiet ways. A carton can say cage-free without telling you how crowded the barn still is. It can say free-range without telling you whether the hens ever saw much daylight. It can say organic and still tell you almost nothing about how the hens actually lived. It can show a pasture picture and still sell you a standard industrial egg. Before the list starts, here are the egg aisle words that most shoppers should understand. Cage-free means the cage is gone. That is the main change. It does not automatically mean open pasture, fresh air, or meaningful space. Free range sounds better, and sometimes it can be better, but the legal standard can still leave a lot of room for a tiny door and very little actual outdoor use. Pasture raised is stronger, but the term still deserves attention. You want to know how much space the hens really have, whether they are rotated, and whether the label can be verified. Organic matters, but only for part of the story. It speaks to feed rules and farming inputs. It does not magically guarantee that the hens lived in a more natural way. And then there is the old myth about shell color. Brown eggs are not better than white eggs. The color comes from breed, not quality. A brown shell can sit on top of the exact same kind of industrial egg as a white one. Keep that in mind, because the first few cartons are going to look like smart choices until you ask what those labels actually mean. If this kind of breakdown helps, tap like now and subscribe to Golden Menu. We investigate food labels, grocery claims, and everyday products so you can shop with more confidence and less guesswork. Number 10. Kroger and Kirkland. This is the middle ground purchase. You are not grabbing the cheapest carton on the shelf. You are also not buying the premium story with the pasture picture and the gold seal. You are spending a little more because the name feels trusted and the carton looks responsible. That is the trap. Cage-free sounds better than it really is. All it means is that the cage has been removed. The birds can still live in a crowded indoor barn with a floor system, limited movement, and very little room to behave like chickens are supposed to behave. That small wording gap matters because most families hear cage-free and picture a farm. The carton is counting on that picture. The reality is usually far less romantic. Kirkland carries real trust in many categories. So does Kroger in many households. But trust from olive oil, pantry goods, or household staples does not automatically transfer to eggs. A strong store name can make a weak carton feel safer than it is. For older adults, this matters because eggs are often part of a daily routine. If you are buying them for breakfast 3 or 4 times a week, you are not looking for a marketing story. You are looking for a carton that gives you something more concrete than a comfortable label. The easiest way to think about this carton is simple. The cage is gone. The questions are not. Number 9. Christopher Eggs. They are trying to buy better. That is why the mismatch matters so much. When a well-meaning family reaches for the premium carton, they are expecting a real upgrade. If the label is doing more storytelling than the farm can prove, the customer is not just overpaying. They are being steered. That is why Vital Farm sits at the top of the avoid list. It sells the strongest feeling of all, the feeling that the premium price has already done the hard work for you. Now let us get to the 3 that actually hold up better. If this guide is helping, tap like now and subscribe to Golden Menu. It helps more families find the kind of grocery breakdowns that make the shelf easier to read. Before these 3, Remember one important rule. Sometimes a brand has a weak standard carton and a much better premium carton. The line matters. The specific carton in your hand matters. Best option number 3. Eggland's Best Organic Eggs. This is the Eggland's Best carton I would point to, not the classic version from earlier. The reason is simple. The USDA organic seal gives you a clearer baseline than the standard carton. The hens are cage-free, the feed is certified organic, and the product page makes the standards easier to verify. That does not make it magic. It does make it more defensible than a carton that leans mostly on a self-controlled promise. For families, that matters. If you are already shopping in a mainstream grocery store and you want a cleaner label without going full specialty, this is a practical step up. It gives you more structure than the ordinary shelf egg and more clarity than the carton that only wants you to notice the seal. Best option number 2, Alexander Family Farm. This is the kind of operation the carton is supposed to reflect. Alexander Family Farm is built around regenerative organic farming, mobile coops, and real outdoor movement for the hens. That matters, because the difference between a slogan and a real farm practice shows up in the egg itself. When hens actually move, forage, and live on rotating pasture, the egg has a better chance of reflecting that life. You can usually see the difference before you cook it. The yolk tends to be deeper. The shell feels like part of a more honest system. The carton does not need the same level of packaging theatrics, because the farming already does the talking. For families, that is the whole point. You want a carton where the story on the outside and the conditions on the ground are working together, not one where the box is doing all the emotional labor. Best option number 1, Handsome Brook Farms. This is the strongest supermarket-style choice on the list, because the brand is unusually direct about space per hen, rotated pasture, and organic feed. The carton gives you a concrete standard instead of just a comforting farm mood. That is a big deal. When the label can tell you how the hens are actually managed, the box becomes information instead of decoration. It is easier to trust a claim that gives numbers than one that gives only a feeling. If you want the cleanest mix of humane framing, outdoor access, and grocery shelf availability, this is the one that gives you the least guesswork. Here is the part families should actually remember. Eggs are not all the same just because the shells look similar. A brown egg is not a better egg. A pretty carton is not a better egg. Organic does not automatically mean more humane. Cage-free does not mean spacious. Free-range does not mean the hens spent their lives outside. And a premium price does not prove a premium egg. If you want a simple shopping rule, use this one. Look for a carton that gives you real outdoor space, real traceability, and a claim that can be checked. Ignore the cartoon hen if the details are thin. Ignore the color of the shell. Ignore the marketing language if the carton cannot explain itself in plain English. For storage, keep eggs cold once you get them home. Put them in the fridge quickly. Keep them in the carton. Do not let them sit in the door for no reason. If your fridge temperature swings a lot, use them while they are fresh enough to taste good and sit properly in the pan. And for cooking, remember that eggs do not need a lot of decoration. A simple fried egg, scrambled eggs, or a boiled egg can be a solid family meal when the carton is doing its job. That is the whole point of this video. Not to make breakfast complicated, just to make the shelf a little more honest. If this changed how you look at eggs, leave a like, subscribe to Golden Menu, and comment with the carton you want us to check next. I read those comments because they help shape the next guide. The carton is a promise. The egg should keep it. This carton sounds like someone already made a careful decision for your family. Vegetarian fed. No animal byproducts. Pure plant-based feed. Clean and intentional. The wording sounds tidy enough to make shoppers feel like the egg must be healthier. It is not that simple. Chickens are not vegetarians. They never were. In a natural setting, hens forage for insects, grubs, and worms. That animal-based food is part of what makes an egg feel like a complete food. When you remove that, and turn the carton into a plant-only story. You are not automatically improving the egg. You may actually be lowering the nutritional value. That is one of the oldest label tricks in the aisle. Take something natural and make it sound cleaner by making it sound more restricted. A good egg should not need a philosophy statement on the front to justify itself. It should stand on the yolk, the shell, and the actual quality of the bird diet. If you crack one of these open, and the yolk looks pale and flat, that is the carton telling on itself. A richer yolk usually reflects a more natural diet and stronger feed quality. A washed-out yolk can mean the label was doing more work than the hen. Families do not buy eggs to feel clever in the store. They buy eggs because breakfast needs to happen. That is why this carton belongs on the avoid list. It talks like a health upgrade, but the egg inside may not back it up. Number 8. Walmart Great Value. This one is all about price. No big farm story. No meaningful certification story. No decorative promise that tries to sell the feeling of a better life. Just a low price that makes people stop asking questions. That low price is not random. It comes from an industrial system built to meet the cheapest legal minimum. The hens can still be kept in very tight conditions. The carton does not need to pretend otherwise because the price already does the talking. Families on a budget are not doing anything wrong here. If the whole aisle is expensive, and this carton is the only one that fits the weekly budget, that is a real household decision. But the low price should not be confused with a better egg. What makes this carton different from the other brands on the list is that it does not really try to hide behind a fancy story. It just stays quiet. That silence is part of the strategy. If the carton does not say much, it is easier to assume the missing details are not important. They are important. When a carton does not make freshness, sourcing, or living conditions clear, it leaves the shopper with nothing but the shelf tag and a guess. That is not enough for a daily food. The cheapest carton is often the one that asks the most from the shopper, while giving back the least information. Number 7. Happy Egg Co. This carton knows how to smile. Bright yellow box. Cartoon hens. A name that sounds warm enough to make parents feel like they are making a gentle choice for the breakfast table. It is one of the easiest cartons in the aisle to like at a glance. That is the point. The labeling language wants you to stop at the front panel. It wants you to think happy, free range, family friendly, and move on. But the legal meaning behind free range can still be very thin. A tiny bit of outdoor access somewhere in the system does not mean the hens spent their lives roaming around like the picture on the carton suggests. This is where the shell color myth also matters. A brown shell and a cheerful package can make the egg feel more natural than it really is. But a brown shell is not proof of better treatment. It is just a brown shell. If you crack one open and the yolk is still pale, the packaging has done all the emotional work, while the egg itself stays ordinary. That is the hidden pattern in a lot of family food shopping. The carton creates comfort. The egg has to live with the consequences. Happy Egg Company is not the worst carton because it is the most evil. It is one of the worst because it is one of the easiest to trust too quickly. Parents see the smile and stop looking. That is where the label wins. Number 6. Nellie's Free Range. Nellie's gets the packaging right in a way that makes the carton feel more honest than it may actually be. The carton has a hand-drawn feel. Earthy tones. A warm farm style. A humane badge on the front that looks official enough to make families believe the hard work of checking has already been done for them. That is where the problem starts. The humane word on a food label does not always mean what shoppers imagine it means. Sometimes it means a standard that can fit the current business model, rather than a standard that truly changes how the hens live. And free range can still mean very limited outdoor access in practice, even if the wording sounds generous. Nellie's is especially good at selling the feeling of care. The carton texture. The artwork. The recycled look. It is all designed to make the shopper feel like they made a thoughtful family choice. That feeling is real. The question is whether the farm behind it matches the feeling on the front. Families do not buy premium eggs because they want decoration in the fridge. They buy premium eggs because they want a better egg. If the carton mostly sells the mood of better rather than the reality of better, the premium price is doing too much work. This is why Nellie's stays on the avoid side for this video. The carton looks like a better life for the hens. The label leaves too much room for the company. Number 5. Safeway and Albertsons Omega-3. This is one of the most technically honest cartons on the shelf, and one of the least useful. That sounds like a contradiction, but it is not. The Omega-3 claim can be true and still be almost meaningless for the shopper who thinks they are making a real nutritional upgrade. The omega-3 in these eggs comes from flaxseed added to the hen feed. That sounds clever. It sounds like the company solved a nutrition problem. But the body does not always get a meaningful payoff from what the label is selling. This is the kind of carton that rewards careful reading and still disappoints. If someone buys it because a doctor said to increase omega-3 intake, the front of the box can easily create the wrong impression. The claim is not fake. The practical benefit is just much smaller than the marketing makes it seem. That is an especially important lesson for older adults and families who are trying to shop with intention. A label can be technically accurate and still lead you in the wrong direction if you assume the number on the front means more than it really does. This carton is not lying. It is just speaking in a way that flatters the shopper while giving very little back. When a food label is correct on paper and disappointing in practice, that is a sign to keep walking. Number 4. Eggland's Best. This carton is trying very hard to feel like a guarantee. The red seal on the shell. The polished branding. The sense that someone checked the egg before it landed in your kitchen. A lot of shoppers see that and relax immediately. That is exactly why the branding works. But the seal is not an independent government check. It is a company-controlled mark. The company created the standard, controls the program, and stamps the result onto its own eggs. That does not automatically mean the egg is bad. It means the seal should not be mistaken for outside verification. The feed changes are real. That part is not fake, but the gap between what the label implies and what the average family actually gets can still be pretty wide. You see the red seal and assume the egg must be noticeably different from the cheaper carton next to it. In many cases, the practical difference is smaller than the branding suggests. This is why older viewers need to be careful with premium labels. A premium seal can feel reassuring right away. The actual egg may not justify the feeling. If you want to pay more for a promise, that is your choice. But if the promise is mostly an internal company mark, and the visible egg does not look much different from a standard carton, the premium is being sold more through confidence than through evidence. The red seal looks like proof. It is really part of the sales pitch. Number 3. Born Free and Organic Valley. This is one of the most misleading trust transfers in the egg aisle. Organic Valley built real reputation through dairy, milk, butter, cooperative farming, family trust. That reputation is genuine. It was earned over time. The problem is that earned trust in one product category can spill into another category before the egg carton has earned anything at all. Born Free and Organic Valley eggs sit inside that spillover effect. The shopper sees a brand they already trust from the dairy case and assumes the same care must apply to the eggs. The carton counts on that assumption. It wants the shopper to connect old trust with new product without stopping to ask whether the egg operation actually deserves the same confidence. The answer is not automatic. Even when the label says cage-free or sounds thoughtful, the actual conditions can still be very industrial. Large barns, crowding, limited space, a building that feels more like a production facility than a farm. The cage is gone, but the crowd is not. That matters. Because families are not only buying breakfast, they are buying a story about how the food was produced. If the story was borrowed from dairy and pasted onto eggs, the carton is leaning on borrowed trust. For older adults, this kind of thing matters because they often buy the same breakfast foods for years. A familiar name becomes a shortcut. This carton is the kind of shortcut that costs too much. Number 2. Pete and Gary's. This carton looks careful in the best possible way. Organic font. Farm-style artwork. Clean layout. It has all the visual cues that tell a shopper this is the premium, thoughtful, responsible choice. And that is where the label gets dangerous. Organic does not mean the hens lived a more natural life. It means the feed followed a set of organic rules. That is important. But it is not the same thing as a better life for the bird. A hen can still be housed in a system that feels industrial, while the feed technically qualifies for the organic seal. Pete and Gary's is especially effective because it looks like the brand for people who already did their homework. That makes the carton even more persuasive. The more careful the shopper feels, the more likely they are to trust the word organic without asking what the word does not cover. For a family buying eggs for breakfast, that is a problem. The carton can look like a premium farm choice while only guaranteeing part of the story. This is not the brand you buy because the picture looked warm. This is the brand you buy only if you understand exactly what the seal does and does not mean. The egg aisle is full of labels that sound like the answer. Pete and Gary's is one of the best examples of why the answer still needs a second look. Number 1. Vital Farms. This is the most expensive story in the aisle. Vital Farms built a whole identity around pasture-raised eggs, rolling fields, happy hens, and a better kind of breakfast. It is the carton most likely to make families feel like they are paying for the real thing rather than a clever label, and that is exactly why it became such a big issue. When a brand tells a very specific farm story, the story has to survive contact with reality. If the pasture image on the carton and the actual farm conditions do not line up cleanly, the carton is no longer a reflection of the egg. It is a sales tool. Vital Farms has also been the kind of brand that makes shoppers believe the premium price is proof in itself. The problem is that price alone does not verify anything. A more expensive carton can still be a marketing success first and a farming success second. Families who shop this brand are usually not careless.